As a brand, you have to stand for something. It has to be true and authentic to who you are and what you're creating in the world. Stop operating based on tactics or based on just metrics alone. Those are tools in a toolbox. That's not the reason why you'll be successful. That's how you hone, that's how you whittle, that's how you get smarter and better and faster, but that's not the reason why your company will be successful. DTC with social media, you don't really have to spend a lot of money. You can crop it up without investors, without shareholders. You therefore don't have those people driving the growth performance goals. None of those things matter to the people who actually matter to your business.
Samantha, welcome to the DTC Podcast. I feel like you've been in our audience for a while. We've been kind of going back and forth about different things. You reached out to me with an interesting story. Why don't we start with your sort of hero's journey with your brand, Better Basics?
Sure. So I started Better Basics 3 years ago. Better Basics sells a variety of goods, and our mission really is to reduce plastic and toxins in homes. And so I call our company like a mission-led company because that was really where the idea came from. And it comes from my personal story of loss. I unfortunately lost both my parents to cancer. And they both got diagnosed at a late stage. And through that, I started to really evaluate everything I was using in my home, all of the products in our house, and learning a lot about ingredient lists, what we shouldn't be using in our personal care industries and our cleaning products. And that's what led to Better Basics. And I should also say I have been working in the consumer product industry for 15 years at the same time. So I already loved products. I loved product marketing. And then I had a personal drive to recreate a category that I think it's just like owned by these like massive conglomerates, and I couldn't find a product that was speaking to me and my value system.
I was preparing for this interview with ChatGPT, and one of the questions that it asked was an interesting one: is if you could make the household goods category have to follow one rule, like one rule that everyone had to follow to have your mission come to life, what would that one rule be?
That's a great question. So the emphasis of the company is on reducing plastic. So that is right now the one thing that I think we have just become so reliant on as a society, and especially in our category, consumer goods, home goods. It's hard to find things that aren't in plastic. And even when you go into like the most natural grocery channel right now and you're trying to just buy something as simple as hand soap, you'd be hard pressed to find something on the shelf that wasn't in plastic. And we know the harms of plastic, not only for the environment, but now also for our health. So plastic is one. And then it's like, this is cheating, but obviously what goes in the bottle also matters too. So it's plastic, but it's also the other ingredients that we've been using. And guess what? There's plastic in a lot of the like liquid soaps and cleaning products that we're using too.
Has it been hard to have those two? Because having those, you said you were cheating in a way, and
Yeah.
It's not cheating because those are two very important features. But has that been hard to build a brand that focuses on those, both the quality of the products and the quality of what it comes in?
Yes, and I have an even more important learning. So I said this company is built on a mission. It's built on a personal story, but all of that to say, I know that people care about all these things, but it has to also serve another need, which is design and function. There's an emotional need too with these products, like the smell and the feel. And like for us, that was always there, but we didn't really lean into that because that's just how we operate. And those are things that we were looking for in our everyday goods. But we haven't leaned into that from a marketing perspective. I actually think it's one of our biggest downfalls, and one of the areas that we want to focus more on is actually the function of the products. Like, why is refilling, our core product is a hand soap refill. So why is refilling hand soap actually like a better system for you? It's like more convenient. Oh, and now every other refill product on the market is like total crap and cheap and yucky and smells like garbage. But ours isn't. Ours is actually like a really high quality and healthy and reduced plastic. So yes, it is challenging. There's a lot to say. It seems like a really simple product line in a really simple category, but it's not.
And when you say basics, you're in a potentially, and then you want to go into why it's such a great product. It can be, you have sort of two messages. You want to say what a unique, amazing product it is and how it compares to all these other ones better out there. But it's a challenging brand message a little bit.
It requires a lot of education, but I do know our customer is highly educated and they're very conscious consumers. So they're actively right now looking for things that meet these needs. So it is fairly niche in that sense, because when I say we don't use SLS or palm oil, like I'm talking to someone who knows that those things are already. I'm educating a little bit, but you'd have to know a little bit that you're like, oh, that's not really an ingredient that I want.
We never get into politics on this show, but there are some interesting things happening down south in regards to some of the conversations they're starting to have around, or they're threatening to have. We'll see if they actually have these conversations, but around health, around endocrine disruptors, around all these. What do you make of that, just strictly from your industry perspective?
Well, the States is just like kind of an overwhelming topic, especially right now, like we're a week off the election.
It's maybe a bit much to bring up. Yeah.
But what's also interesting is like there are many different communities and groups within the US. And even if you just take California alone, they have Prop 65, which has they've been leading a lot of companies to change ingredient lists and materials and things that we use in everyday products. And so I'm not afraid of that. I think that's the future. I think we need to do more of that. I think we need to be more discerning. We need to do more research, and that's what they're leading with. So if anything, it's helping us.
I think so. I could see it being, definitely. I have this pet project. I just have to pull the trigger on it one day. I want to start a beef tallow skincare brand. And there's lots out there. And it's funny, you look at the search trends and it's like people are looking for alternatives for sure in all these different ways. So I think it's a trend that will benefit your business.
Yeah. And in being in Canada, we have our own like single-use plastic goals at our government. And so especially when we get into some of the larger retail channels, they have now set goals around single-use plastic reduction on their shelves of the products that they're selling. So yes, everyone I think wants to meet these targets. I don't know if consumers at this stage are willing to lead with that as the value proposition. So that's what I was saying. Big learning is like the function, the smell, the design still needs to be the feature, the main hero of what we're selling. And then all those other things are like backing it up. And then it's, again, supporting the growth of the business more from like our mission standpoint, and then from the partners and kind of like the world we want to create. Like we're trying to lead in that space.
Talk to me about your growth trajectory. What have been the most successful growth levers for the business?
Partnerships has been one of our secret sauces, I would say. We early on worked with Jillian Harris. So if you're a Canadian listener, you probably know who that is. She has a great brand and business, and she really connects with our target audience, which is a lot of, like I say, conscious consumers and mostly a lot of moms. Like they're buying a lot of these products every day for their household, and they're trying to buy well-made, high-quality, healthy products for their homes, and they're consuming a lot of them. So Jillian Harris is great. And then we've done a lot of brand partnerships as well. My background was in marketing, so I've had the opportunity to work with some large retail brands, and I've continued those relationships. So it was great out the gate. Like we've done quite a few collabs and events and just different ways of tapping into other brands. And we'll be doing more collabs as we go forward too.
Nice. What about digital ads? Have you been running the Facebook ads?
Yeah, we did in the first year, and then we actually cut them. I think what we found, and I know a lot of this series is really diving into like the technical side of marketing, but for us, where we're a startup and we're a mission-led business. And what we're finding today is that people really want to connect to the story first and foremost. And the best avenue for that is really our organic channels. And then when we can, like some of these collabs and some of these in-persons and events and community events, that's when they really get a sense of who we are. So we still have to start with that like almost human to human conversation and connection before we amplify. So where Meta and Google have served us best is in really retargeting. But because we're new and we need acquisition and we need awareness, it's not necessarily served us in those avenues. So we need to reach people where they are, partner with people who already have an active following and a good reputation in the category. That's important too, because we set our standards really high. So we're not just going to show up and work with anyone. And so, yeah, those two things matter. Get the awareness through other channels, other avenues, and then use some of our other digital marketing tactics as a way to build the funnel and build people, like keep them along.
And then how many SKUs are you? And then what's your hero product right now? What's your best path to purchase? Because it's interesting because you kind of go into your world of like covering all the basics.
And we're in the middle of changing it actually. So the intention for Better Basics when we launched was to be kind of this online zero waste store. And we would cover everything from cleaning to personal care to home goods. And we've had over 100 SKUs. Okay, so we keep popping up new ones, new colorways, different styles. Our number one product is a hand soap refill, and we can't keep it in stock because partly one of our biggest learnings, like we've been spreading ourselves too thin on everything else. So as we move forward, that is what we're going to do is we're going to double down on like hero SKU and start removing some of the clutter. So best path to purchase is the hand soap refill. We have a subscription model on hand soap. So once she loves it and tries it, she can subscribe to that, have it delivered. She doesn't have to think about it. And then we have all those other ancillary products that she can add on to make her life easier. And she knows once, they're held to the same standard and perform in a similar way.
Do you have foaming hand soap?
No, on purpose.
Oh, really? I was a big fan of why are you anti foaming hand soap?
Performance.
Is that right?
Yeah. So I think you can't put as many of the nice oils into the foaming hand soap. So the way that the bubbles are added through the pump, and so the actual liquid in there has to be more watered down. So a foaming hand soap is usually like a more watered down version of like a liquid hand soap. And then today we're in a conversation around reducing plastic. Obviously there's a lot of brands that make mix your own products at home. So you have a tablet or a powder and then you mix water in, and that makes a foaming hand soap. But I feel the feel on your hand, the moisturizing benefits, even how easy it is to like absorb into your skin or move around your hands is inferior to liquid hand soap, which is why we do liquid hand soap.
I love it. So I'm wondering, you've isolated that you want to lead organic first with growth, which makes a ton of sense because it's the kind of thing that when you have that, it can make the other channels better eventually if that's what you want. Are you out there? It's funny. I just got off a conversation with my friend Brock Memisser, who does Frost Buddy, and all of his social feed is just him explaining why he built Frost Buddy over and over again in different settings, on the beach, at the park, on and on. And I'm wondering if you're leveraging any of these platforms yourself. You're a personable person. Have you gone and made your pitch about a Better Basics on these platforms?
Yeah. So yes, and early on when we were running ads, I A/B tested a lot, and the ad that always won was me sitting in a chair talking about why I started Better Basics. So I think there's a good reason for this. Like people connect with people. They want to know the story behind the product. It's connecting back to the why. And yeah, organic social, like I said, I've been a marketer for a long time. So I've seen a shift in social in the last even 2 years where it went from like perfect feed, really high production to really more raw, authentic, vulnerable, less produced, rambling topics and real topics too. Let's talk about something that really is uncomfortable. Like
the election.
We talk, climate change.
Yeah.
We talk about, health of your family or your home or yourself. It's not just chatter anymore. It's not just noise. And that, again, like I said, that's why the vision of the company was never even like the products. It was more around the mission.
Yeah. Very cool. Talk to me about the challenges you've kind of experienced over this past year.
So many challenges. So we're bootstrapped and we're a startup. And I'm not going to say it's a challenge, but it's just like an added element to my life is that I had a baby a year ago. And actually, my co-founder and I were 3 years in. We both got pregnant like months into launching the business as well. So this is my second kid. So I've run this company at home with a baby always.
Wow. Yeah.
Now 2 babies. It's not just like an added thing, but really for the business perspective, it's acquisition costs have gone up. So you need more creative and interesting way to acquire people. It needs to be deeply rooted in meaning, which means there's no secret lever that you can pull to this. It's really trying to create a conversation over and over again around things that matter to you as a brand. And that's how you create a brand story, and that's how you create loyalty, and that's then converts into awareness and all the other things. So yeah, that's like, it's grunt work, it's like you personally, social media all the time. So that's been a challenge. And then, we're bootstrapped. So we also don't have the funds to do, like, I can't just hire someone to be our social media face tomorrow. And there's so many products that I'd like to launch, but we don't have necessarily the funding or the runway to bring out all the product lines that we want. So we have to get creative with how we're creating newness going forward. That's where we're actually at a precipice right now where we're really transitioning the business model, and the future is going to be less SKUs, but more limited edition.
Go into a bit more depth on that. What were you seeing that necessitated that change?
Well, I think every business has this in common, where there's like one product that it's that 80-20 rule, right? Like one product is 80% of your top line revenue, and the other rest is there. It like builds out the story, but it doesn't actually drive growth. So just trying to refocus energy towards that, and then drive volume on that one thing. Because once you've got volume on the hero, then you can have a little bit more of extra to do the other bits. We were stretching ourselves too thin with too many products in the product line. But then the other element of it is newness. So if you're not able to adapt and listen to your audience and bring out something that meets their needs in a different way or a new way, then all of a sudden it's very stale. And I say like all your marketing channels are dead. Like you just have to have something new. So you can create new conversations, but then if you don't have something for them to like click and convert on, then you've got, again, nothing new.
Yep.
So,
and you have to have those new conversations. You got to add them to the conversation as well.
Yeah. So for us, that is going to look like pulling back on the product mix, but offering new elements to our top products. So it could be like new design collabs, new scent collabs. Right now we have like cleaning products and we have other personal care products. So I might be bringing back 1 or 2 of those things to make a set, and only having that as a limited time and limited quantities. And we're also likely to, and I don't know if this will be forever, but for the meantime anyways, to move to just a pre-order model.
Oh, so you don't have any wasted. You just know exactly what you need to make.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
And you're driving demand, and you're doing like quick spurts.
Yeah.
So even from a marketing perspective, it's like going really hard, really pushing one thing, and then you basically run it and then you turn it off, and then you go in a totally different direction after that. So you don't have waste, not only from like a cash flow or a product perspective, but you don't have waste from things that needing to trail on in terms of your creative ideation. It's like you close that project, you close that campaign, and then you get to start fresh again on the next one.
It makes me think of, I've referenced this event a lot in recent podcasts, but it was Brandon Horoho when he came to our event in Victoria and did a talk about Montana Knife Co. and showed us his calendar that he has for the next, I think, 2 years, where they're doing 2 or 3, maybe 2 knife drops and 1 merch drop on the weekend. And they had this planned out for 2 years in advance. And when you're building that drop style business, it gives you that, first of all, that urgency, that reason to reach out to people. When you're doing something like that, it's this great reason to email them, hit them up on social. And so it built this connection so that every time they saw one of their posts or one of their emails, it was this event to be like, okay, this thing is happening. And it also freed up his team to be able to just know exactly what to do. Okay, here are all my drops into the future, and allowed the team just to really coalesce around like what needed to be done in order to make it happen. So I feel like it's it can be a really effective growth mechanism when you do it right. And I haven't heard it applied to the home goods section, but I could see it working, especially in the scent area. I feel like scents are a really like growing thing that people are interested in.
Yeah. And seasonality in scents has always been a thing in the industry for a long time. Like there's always this Christmas smells and things like that. But for us, it's also like source of inspiration. So we do different colors and patterns and designs on our products as well. And again, different categories. So it allows us to then maintain even internally a sense of inspiration because we're kind of able to mood board, start fresh every time we go to market with something. And that's exciting for them, the consumer as well, our audience, our community.
So let's talk a little bit about the video that you sent over when we were first talking about doing this. Talk about the Save Our Business campaign. First of all, what situation did you find yourself in that this campaign was working for you?
Okay. So to people listening, we launched a video a month and a half ago called Save Our Business, a video and an email campaign. It really was like a vulnerable cry for help. Like I think most small businesses have had a really crappy year, for being honest. And I lucky to have a strong community of entrepreneurs. So a lot of conversations that happen behind closed doors that you don't necessarily see on the forefront of businesses, and how much people are just spinning their wheels and trying their hardest to turn things around. So we had a hard year. We sold out of our top seller and we weren't able to bring it back. We just have the cash flow to bring it back. I'm like, the only way for me to bring back the top seller is if I sell through everything. And the only way to sell through everything is to tell everybody I have to sell through everything. And so that's what I did. And I set a challenge for myself, give myself 30 days. I went onto social media organically. I made a video of myself packing our products as I do and explained why I started Better Basics, which is my personal story, and then what we make. And then I said I have 30 days to sell everything, 4,761 products, I think it was. So it was 5,000 products in a month, which is more than we've ever done. And it really kind of popped off. Like the outreach was overwhelming. So there were a lot of people that were loyal fans, and even friends and family or business associates who saw it and reached out and purchased. And then there were also a lot of new eyeballs, and there was a lot of even influential folks that kind of shared or reached out. And so it's been instrumental. We almost reached our goal. We didn't sell everything, but we sold out of almost everything. So if you go on the website today, it's right before a holiday season. We're actually down to very few SKUs, and I have very, very low quantities of those SKUs left. But that was our intention. It was to give us some breathing room to sell out, to give us some breathing room to regroup and refocus on the top seller. And I think the learning lesson in all that is also just this piece of like being authentic, not trying to be perfect. It was very uncomfortable. Like, I didn't want to do this. It's kind of like, oh, this is the last resort. But now I laugh about it because who cares? At the end of the day, I'm like, this is what's happening. I'm not, like if we went for coffee and you were my best friend and I would be telling you all of this anyways, and I'm just telling it to the whole world. Let your ego get out of the way. Just be honest. And I think people will appreciate that. And guess what? They don't only appreciate it. It's like they want to be part of it. It's like there's respect that comes with that too. And part of our future is building a company with a community. You can't have a company without a community. You're just a couple of people over here making products is nothing. Like you actually need people who are very captivated by what you're doing and want to be part of it and are sharing ideas. And that's how you create something that has meaning and that has longevity.
And the drop model plays into that well. The drop model sort of inherently, because you're constantly referencing, reaching out to people with a reason, it kind of creates this community kind of not automatically, but that's the idea.
So when we bring it back, we are going to do it with the community. They're going to have choice. We will do collabs with some of their favorite folks or brands that they love and follow already, but they'll also be able to just influence what the future Better Basics is. And it makes me also feel not so alone as a founder. Like everything has to be polished and perfect. And And so, yeah, I'm really excited about that. I just think it's also telling in terms of where we are in the world of marketing. Like, people don't want flashy, perfect anymore.
No. The other thing that underlies this is you didn't discount. This wasn't like a going out of business sale. This was, but you're buying, and you weren't selling your hero SKU. A lot of these people had probably just bought the hero SKU and maybe not bought other things, but you got them to expand into all these other product categories just by asking them. Probably creating better customers long-term as well by being vulnerable.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I think sales are boring and expected. And when you do too many of them, it's like, why am I even buying this anymore? So again, you have to like go back to the reason why. Why would anyone care about this product? Like, oh, we actually are really committed to our values. We have really high standards on everything we create. Like, we don't just create cotton bags. We create organic cotton bags that have a certification. You know, like there's a lot of thinking that goes behind everything we do. And I think people respect that and they're looking for that. But yeah, they want to know the behind the scenes too. Like what's actually happening behind the company.
So what's the plan? So you've sold out your inventory, you gathered your float. I guess you've re-upped on your hero product. What's your like, it sounds like you're going to be like, will you be low stocked through the holidays? Like you won't be taking advantage of like a huge Q4 scale this year?
We will not be doing a huge Black Friday, Cyber Monday. We're actually just continuing to sell out right now of the stock that we have, which is all amazing product, but not the hero. The hero is not back in stock for the holiday season. And then next year we'll be bringing back very limited runs actually, and just going to the drop model.
Makes sense. It's like when you start a fire, you get your kindling in a really hot spot and you make it really hot right there. Repeat and add logs as you go.
Yeah. And well, actually, for the first time in many years in my career, I'm going to take the holiday season off.
Nice.
Yeah.
Love to hear it.
I feel like there's also an element of like cutting through the clutter and trying to create something exciting. And when you're motivated to just sell over Black Friday, it's like hard to be creative as a company and come up with ways that have meaning and purpose for people. And it's kind of the antithesis of our entire company, even though we have done it in the past. And it's really hard as a retail brand to like ignore those holidays. We'd all love to be Patagonia and like shut our doors on Black Friday.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe we will one day. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's a bit of a necessary evil. But yeah, anyway, it's like freed up a lot more room for creativity without having that pressure.
It's the beauty of the DTC business in a way, right? Is that I had a really great chat with a friend of mine who owns a brand. And she was going through a similar thing where she'd scaled her brand up, I think pretty big, pretty large, like maybe even to 8 figures. But she was actually pregnant, and she was wanting to just like rein it back in a number of ways. And it's like on this podcast, it's so often this like growth at all costs mentality. That's kind of what we talk about. But it's amazing that as a business, it's up to you. Like that's the way the conglomerates of the past always work. Just always have to go ruthlessly to the shareholder. But maybe this new breed of D2C business can be more, built for people's lives.
D2C with social media, you don't really have to spend a lot of money. You can crop it up without investors, without shareholders. You therefore don't have those people driving the growth performance goals. But I do think at the end of the day, the bigger lesson to me is none of those things matter to the people who actually matter to your business. You have to create for people, and you have to listen to what people want and really create like meaningful connection.
And really human connection. It's funny, like the connection you created with that email isn't really related to Better For You basics. It's not really just a climate change or anything like that. That's just human vulnerability and people wanting to help.
Yeah.
And be part of something.
Yeah. And I think we've just been so inundated with so much as society, especially coming out of COVID. We launched during COVID, and I was just even myself feeling it. But I think as well, we're seeing that trend. It's just like people don't want to be screamed at anymore on social, and we want meaning and purpose and deeper conversations. And so you can't just like create that as a campaign. It has to be part of the heartbeat of the company, and that's a human thing.
what other advice or thoughts do you have for brands who are maybe in a similar position? Because I feel like one of the things that I talked about with Pilot House last year was this idea that Q4 is like, for a lot of brands, is like the defibrillators. It's like things are rough earlier in the year and they just hope they can make enough money to kind of buoy them through the rest of the year. But then I remember I was talking with someone at Pilot House and they were working with a brand who was like super disappointed that on January 1st, that their numbers weren't maintaining what they were like in like Q4, for instance. And it was like, well, I thought this is what our business is like now, but it really is that kind of sort of frenzy of the year. What sort of advice do you have for other brands that are weathering the storm out there?
I think that you, as a brand, you have to stand, if there's one thing I've taken away from this, you have to stand for something. It has to be true and authentic to who you are and what you're creating in the world, and stop operating based on tactics or based on just metrics alone, because those things are important and those are tools in a toolbox. That's not the reason why you'll be successful. To me, that's like, yeah, that's how you hone, that's how you whittle, that's how you get smarter and better and faster, but that's not the reason why your company will be successful.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on the D2C podcast today.
Thank you for having me, Eric.
Yeah, I look forward to kind of keeping up with you and hearing about your 2025 as you grow in this more very conscious and intentional way, it sounds like.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, hopefully I'll come back and we can talk more about our metrics and how they're through the roof.
Yeah, we could bro down on growth metrics. Great to finally meet you, and have a great rest of your year.
You too.
Thanks so much for listening to today's episode. If you're not a subscriber to our newsletter, you can do that right now at directtoconsumer.co. I'm Eric Dick, and this has been the D2C Podcast. We'll see you next time.